Welcome everybody to Justice Served Daily. I will warn you in advance, I have been sick for the last, well, let's see, today's Tuesday, right guys? Tomorrow will be 3 weeks, and I have been tested repeatedly for COVID and the flu. And my last test on Wednesday, which they said was negative, but so if I start hacking and coughing, I'm going to go into the mute mode as quick as I can as I start. When you think about coughing, it makes you cough. And I have some hot chocolate here, so hopefully that helps me not end up in a coughing fit. But we have a lot of stuff to go over. So I do have up here with me Mama Bear and Paige. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
And I see Jinx is out there. Hello, Miss Jinx. I hope you're doing well.
Hi, Jane.
And I know that a lot of people have been out there getting sick all over the place, so I hope everybody is doing well. And hello, Jamie and Lynn. Hi, guys. I hope you're all doing well. And I will go ahead and get started. I have asked Miss Page if she would read the contempt charges that have come from the prosecutor that talks about the crime scene photos and that. And we have some other things we want to update and some things that were filed today. So I will go ahead and go to share my screen. Alrighty.
Yeah, you've been sick basically, JSD, since the last show, the day of the
I
last
know.
show.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I was really bad there for a while, and I went to get checked, and then I contacted these ladies. Like, I think I contacted you guys back on Wednesday that I was like, "Hey, I'm really not doing well."
Yeah, we were trying to find you for a little while.
I know.
Oh, yeah, and you don't do that to people that work in true crime.
Yeah.
We will track you down.
They hunted me
sure.
down. They hunted down Mr. Justice. I mean, it was really bad.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's not all we did, but yeah.
So, but, all right. So I've got this here in huge font just because of myself. This is the filing by MCLELAND and the prosecutors. And by the way, if you guys have questions, I am not able to see it because of my screen on thing. Mama Bear and Paige and Jinx may be able to see it. So if you have questions when I go back on screen, I can see it, or they may be able to tell me about it. But when I pull this up, I can't. So I apologize for that. But Paige, do you want to read it from your own thing and I'll slide down from it, or do you want to read it from my own, from the screen I have up?
Well, I've got it on both. I've got your screen up and also my own. So I'll
whichever's easiest for you. If you go on yours, I'll just follow along.
No problem. Okay, so yeah, this is a motion for continuance. It says, comes now Attorney Rozzi, and respectfully requests that this court continue the February 12th, 2024 hearing on the verified information of contemptuous conduct filed by prosecutor Nicholas C. McClelland on January 29th, 2024. In support of said motion, counsel states as follows. So number one, on January 29th, 2024, Prosecutor McClelland filed a verified information of contemptuous conduct. Within said information, Prosecutor McClelland alleged that Attorney Rozzi engaged in conduct that amounted to indirect contempt of this court's orders. Number 2, 3 days later, this court scheduled the state's information for hearing on February 12th, 2024 at 9 a.m. in the Allen Superior Court. Number 3, the February 12th hearing was scheduled by the court without any consultation with Attorney Rozzi's office regarding his availability. Attorney Rozzi is scheduled to be out of the state of Indiana on personal matters and is therefore unavailable to attend. Number 4, because of the timing of the state's filing, Attorney Rozzi has only 11 days to prepare for said hearing. Number 5, Attorney Rozzi has yet to consult with an attorney as of the date of the filing of this motion. Number 6, the accelerated scheduling of the hearing prohibits Attorney Rozzi and/or his figure legal representatives, future legal, from conducting any meaningful discovery regarding the state's allegations which appear to have stemmed from a side investigation into leaked photographs. And it says, see paragraph 12 to 25. That was conducted by the same investigative team that investigated the crimes in this case. It only seems fair that Attorney Rozzi would be entitled to conduct discovery. Sorry, let me just go to the other one.
And to let everybody know, the one I have up is the filing of contempt. The one she's reading is for continuation by that they want the hearing moved. Rozzi's trying to claim he wants the hearing of contempt moved from the 12th. So that's okay. She'll go through that of why he wants it moved, and then we'll go through what they accused everything of.
Yeah. So number 7, Attorney Rozzi would further report that the moving party, Prosecutor McClelland, has communicated to attorneys Rozzi and Baldwin that he will no longer engage in telephonic communications with attorneys Rozzi and Baldwin in this case. Prosecutor McClelland has limited all communications through email correspondence. Therefore, the flow of information between the state and attorneys Rozzi and Baldwin is limited.
I think that's an important point to point out to everybody. Mm-hmm. So basically, we learn from the defense stating that the prosecution will no longer communicate, via phone. They will only communicate back and forth in writing with each other. So I think that's kind of important that they don't trust to kind of have a phone call together and what's somebody's going to say to them.
Yeah. Okay, so number 8, a plain reading of IC 3447-36, the statute articulating the potential punishment to be handed down by the court in a contempt finding, authorizes the court to punish indirect contempt by way of a fine, imprisonment, or both a fine and imprisonment. As such, Attorney Rozzi is entitled to obtain representation for purposes of defending against the allegations of contempt. An indirect contempt, which is at issue here, requires an array of due process protections, including notice and the opportunity to be heard. Surely these protections would amount to more than 11 days of advance notice. Yeah. So number 9, the alleged allegations in the state's information fail to accurately categorize the contemptuous behavior as being grounded in either civil contempt or criminal contempt. However, the pleading was filed within the MR cause number and not in an unrelated civil MI cause. Moreover, the allegation is couched as an information for contemptuous behaviour as opposed to a citation for contempt, and therefore it is logical to conclude that the relief sought by Prosecutor McClelland is akin to that associated with the criminal contempt. And while the information does not specifically contain a prayer for relief, the pleading does not reference the re-victimization of the victims' families, which is immeasurable and incurable. This verbiage is grounded in criminal contempt. Therefore, Attorney Rozzi is entitled to the appointment of a special judge pursuant to IC 344737. And logically, the process of selecting the special judge should occur before any hearing on the allegation takes place. Okay, so do you want me to read what you wanted me to read? I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. We needed to update that one anyway. So
Okay,
let's
cool.
let's go
I'll
through
read
what
it
the
from yours then. From
okay.
your
Well, let's read what the prosecution filed in holding Baldwin and Rozzi in contempt, which I think is pretty informative because remember, we never got to hear any of the information or testimony from the Indiana State Police investigation of the leaks and all of the full details of everything that was done from the very beginning, which when you read through this, you're like, oh my God, there was a lot of stuff that they promised they weren't going to do, and then they did anyway. And it's, you know, you can understand why the contempt is being filed by McClelland. So if you want to go through that.
Okay, so this is verified information of contemptuous conduct. Comes now the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClelland and brings to the court's attention, as an officer of the court, verified information of contemptuous conduct by defense counsels Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin. The state would ask the court to order Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin to appear before this court and show cause if there be any reason why they should not be held in indirect contempt for violation of this court's orders. The state would ask the court to consider the following information. So, number one, that both Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin were appointed by this court to represent the defendant herein as public defenders on November 14th, 2022. Number two, that a hearing was held on November 22nd, 2022 to resolve preliminary matters. The same day, the state of Indiana filed a motion for an order prohibiting the parties, counsel, law enforcement officials, court personnel, coroner, and family members from disseminating information or releasing any extra judicial statements by means of public communication, commonly referred to as a gag order. Number three, that the court took the state's motion under advisement, but in an in-chambers conference, defense counsel Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin refused to agree to the state's motion, stating that such an order, i.e. the gag order, was unnecessary because they had no intentions of discussing this case in the public.
So they refused to do it, and they're saying, you don't need it because we're not going to go to the public right before we all know they go and hold a press release. But
yeah, exactly. Okay, 1 second.
Number 4. Are you still there?
Oh gosh, did we lose her?
I don't know. I can't see.
I think we lost her. Is she in the waiting room
she
again?
pressed something. Yep. Okay. I'm going to read till she comes back. Well, actually, let me make sure she's not in there. Now that I just think about that. Hold on. I guess
We're
I
not
have to
used to
make
this
it.
anymore. We haven't been on for a while now.
No kidding. Okay. You can tell if she comes in, right? If you see her or no, or you can't.
No, I don't think I can see her in the waiting room, hon.
Oh, there she is. There she is.
Hi, Paige.
All right. We're on number 4.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh.
That's okay. That's okay.
My phone hates me, I think. Right. Okay. So, number 4. Pretend
It's
that
the
didn't
Welsh.
happen. Okay. That didn't happen.
It's the Welsh phone.
I'm on the other side of the world, guys. Give me a break. Okay. Yeah. So, that on December the 1st, 2022, the defense put out a press release that included extrajudicial statements by means of public communication that commented on the case to the public and to the media, including commenting on the investigation by law enforcement. The evidence discovered against the defendant and presenting evidence that they believe proves the defendant's innocence. The information released would have been in direct violation of the gag order that the defense would not agree to, and which the defense stated was unnecessary because they were not going to discuss this case in the public or in the media. That's funny.
Mhm.
The press release is herein attached as States Exhibit 1. Number 5, that the press release contained multiple comments of the kind presumed to have a substantial likelihood of materially producing an oh my god, I can't say that word.
Adjudicative. Yep.
Adjudicative proceeding in this matter. Okay, number 6, that the court entered an order on December the 2nd, 2022, granting the state's motion for order prohibiting the parties, counsel, law enforcement officials, court personnel, coroner, and family members from disseminating information or releasing any judicial statements by means of public communication in whole without a hearing. The order directed the attorneys not to comment on this case to the public or to the media, directly or indirectly, by themselves or through an intermediary in any form. The court reminded counsel at the time that they were bound by Rules of Professional Conduct Rule 3.6 about trial publicity. This order is commonly referred to as the gag order. The court commented that this order was put out in response to the press release by defense counsels Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin. Number 7, that sometime in December of 2022, defense counsel Andrew Baldwin violated the court's gag order by sending an email to Brandon Woodhouse containing an outline of discovery, including the names of juvenile witnesses. Brandon Woodhouse is not an attorney on this case and is not involved in this case in any capacity. Number 8, that further defense counsels Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin failed to notify the court or the state of the dissemination of information in this case to an unauthorized recipient, and intentionally withheld that information from the court and the state by asking Brandon Woodhouse to delete the email. Number 9, that this leak of information was not discovered until the state uncovered it on Brandon Woodhouse's YouTube channel in March of 2023. Further, it was discovered that Brandon Woodhouse had disseminated the information to several other people and his YouTube channel was viewed by multiple viewers. Okay, next. This dissemination of material from the case is a violation of the gag order that directly relates back to defense counsel. Number 10, that on February the 13th, 2023, the state filed a motion requesting a protective order governing discovery in an effort to prevent the defense from disseminating evidence in this case to people outside the case and to the public. Number 11, that on February the 17th, 2023, the court granted the state's motion and put in place a protective order setting forth very restrictive rules to prevent dissemination of the discovery in this case to the public or to anyone not involved in the case. Number 12, that in October 2023, the state was made aware by the families of the victims that the crime scene photos were leaked to the public. Indiana State Police began an investigation into how the photos were leaked. It became immediately obvious that the leaked photos came from the defense. On September 18th, 2023, the defense filed a Franks motion with a memorandum in support. The memorandum described the crime scene in gory, graphic detail. As part of that memorandum, the defense attached exhibits that were provided in hard copies to the state and to the court. Some of these exhibits were side-by-side photos that the defense created and photos of the crime scene that the defense had altered. These photos were the photos that were leaked to the public.
I think that's an important part to pause right there.
Extreme, yeah.
When you talk about what was leaked, I mean, obviously, one of the things we all talked about was at the same time that we all knew it was suspicious that at the same time the Franks hearing that was filed, which is only supposed to be for them to file about a hearing to be held, whether the police had probable cause or not to search Richard Allen's home. And that's all that the Franks hearing is supposed to be in regards to, and whether the evidence would be thrown out, what they found due to that probable cause affidavit and that search warrant. They added the whole Odinism cult theory to it, and we're describing everything. And at the time, in other videos, we talked about, well, what a coincidence that they're describing the crime scene and somehow the crime scene gets leaked. But to also know that the prosecutor is stating also that they altered the crime scene photos.
Yeah, and
so
I wanted
to
point
them somehow.
I wanted to point out that, you know, I have seen people mention that this could mean anything. You know, altered could mean anything. People said, you know, maybe they blurred certain parts in those photos, you know, to respect the girls. But honestly, like, in my opinion, if they were blurred or something, for example, why was the memorandum so descriptive, graphic in nature? You know, like, I feel like, in my opinion, there wasn't any kind of care about protecting that information either. So I really just, in my opinion, again, don't think that was what these meant by altered.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and if I sit here and I let you see something and you view it for yourself, and then I turn around and send you something and then make a comment about it in there, I also can try to influence in what way you think something is.
Yeah.
And we know that basically from at least people who had said they seen things in other channels who were talking about stuff, that certain things the defense team was trying to say was in it, or that appeared this way or appeared that way. People were arguing that stuff didn't appear to be that way. So you don't know, and we don't know what was altered or changed or emphasized or highlighted or whatever. But they're only going to show you what it is that they can influence and let people think. So it you know, when people talk about the defense team, everybody is allowed, the assumption of innocent until proven guilty. But there's a difference also from an attorney's playing dirty tricks and deliberately doing stuff to get information out to the public, which is against their oath as attorneys, period. And when you see that they, we already knew that Gull had made a comment about, hey, you guys said that this wasn't going to be in the public, and yet you did something. But we didn't know at what level that was until we read what MCLELAND states.
Yeah.
Which he's stating, they went to do this gag order. They are arguing, we don't want the gag order. You guys don't have to worry about the gag order. We're not going to do this in the public. Right. And that we know that the minute that they got this case, they turned around and did that press release and were out there in front of the news immediately talking about how innocent Richard Allen was and so on and so forth. Yeah. That's dirty play from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But when you get to this and still altering, this is after a protective order was made because they were already worried that they would leak this information, obviously, which you just read. That's why they went ahead and made a special protective order against crime scene photos. Right. And that they still did it by trying to do it this sideways, and that the photos in some way are altered. That's dirty games. Right.
Well, yeah, not only that though, it literally says some of the exhibits were side-by-side photos that the defense created.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Exactly. Created. Keyword there. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. I'll continue. So,
what number was we on?
13. 13. There it is.
There we go.
So, number 13, that investigators were led to a podcaster who said he got the pictures from an individual that he knew. The investigation led officers to determine the podcaster got the photos from a man that he knew who got them from Robert FORTSON. Robert FORTSON received the photos from Mitch Westerman, who is tied to the defense. Number 14, that on October the 10th, 2023, Defense Counsel Andrew Baldwin stated on a conference call with all parties that a trusted confidant by the name of Mitch Westerman stopped by his office to visit, snuck into his conference room where all of the discovery in this case was being held, unsecured, and took photos of crime scene pictures. Defense Counsel Baldwin stated that this occurred without his permission and that the pictures were stolen. Ironically, this was hours after investigators spoke to FORTSON and determined that Mitch Westerman leaked the photos and that he was the connection to the defense. Number 15, that the investigation by the Indiana State Police revealed that Mitch Westerman previously worked for Baldwin and was a person Baldwin trusted. In an interview with Indiana State Police, Defense Counsel Baldwin admitted that he voluntarily gave Mitch Westerman a copy of the Franks memorandum to review. Defense Counsel Baldwin also stated that he gave the Franks memorandum to another civilian to review. The Franks memorandum and exhibits contained protected discovery information that included very sensitive crime scene photos that were leaked by Mitch Westerman. Specifically, the investigation revealed that Mitch Westerman gave the photos to an individual named Robert FORTSON, who then passed them on to individuals who distributed them throughout the internet. And I just want to say, if you're one of those, it's disgusting. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, not sorry. Number 16, that on October the 12th, 2023, Defence Counsel Brad Rozzi submitted a letter to this court admitting that both he and Defence Counsel Andrew Baldwin had agreed to store the discovery in the conference room in Defence Counsel Baldwin's office. Further, Defence Counsel Rozzi admits that Mitch Westerman had
Oops,
access.
slip of the tongue.
Oops.
Oops. No, sorry.
Yeah, which please. Anyway, yeah. So can't say his name now. Sorry. Mitch Westerman, alone in the office where sensitive discovery material was stored. See Section 4 of the letter filed with the court. Then in Section 10 of the same letter, Defence Counsel Rozzi accepts responsibility for the lapse in security that caused the photos to be leaked, admitting to this court that they are in indirect contempt of the court's orders. Number 17. That on October the 18th, 2023, Mitch Westerman submitted an affidavit to this court stating that he, in fact, went into the conference room of Defence Counsel Andrew Baldwin and took pictures of discovery evidence without the permission of Defence Counsel Baldwin. Number 18, that investigators were able to retrieve messages between Robert FORTSON and another individual that showed that Robert FORTSON had detailed real-time knowledge about when evidence was submitted to the defence and the contents of that evidence for weeks before the photos were leaked. FORTSON also knew the actions defence took in trial preparation, leading law enforcement to believe that this was not a one-time act of one person, but a consistent leak of information and discovery in the case. The investigation showed that Westerman would get... Sorry. Oh, it's not right, okay. Yeah, would get information about the case and then give it to FORTSON, who would distribute it to other individuals. Ugh, okay. Number 19, that investigators attempted to interview both Mitch Westerman and Robert FORTSON, each of which declined. Number 20, that shortly after investigators attempted to interview Robert FORTSON, he took his own life.
I think we need to pause right there.
Yeah.
I think we need to pause right there because
I knew she was going to say that.
Here we've got. Okay, so we knew Robert FORTSON's name before it came out. He actually doesn't go by Robert, but I'm going to keep it as Robert FORTSON, just because that's the way it's legally presented out there. So I'm going to keep it out there that way. Mm-hmm. Robert FORTSON, as you know, Mitch Westerman resided in Hamilton County. So did Robert FORTSON. He also lived in the Hamilton County area. Westerman was from Westfield, Indiana, and Robert FORTSON was from Fishers, Indiana. And so we've got a guy who knows all of the information way in advance based on the Indiana State Police investigation. The one thing that we will learn is that when this contempt hearing happens, we will learn more information from the Indiana State Police investigation through testimony of the Indiana State Police investigating this. Now, when they went to see FORTSON had asked to see an attorney and didn't speak. And she'll read a little more that will talk about concern that FORTSON had in advance about this going on. But, you know, this case also involves that this man getting information that was leaked to him by Westerman directly. And remember, they admitted that Westerman has a copy of the Franks hearing, which included crime photos as pieces of it. Yet they're saying that the crime photos that were taken were stolen out of the office, unbeknownst to him, to Baldwin. And I almost feel a little bad for Rozzi because, you know, when you read all of this, you don't really hear that Rozzi's the person engaged and involved with it. You hear more about it being Baldwin, who
not
Baldwin
Rozzi.
knows Westerman. He's getting Westerman to get this information. He's telling Westerman what their plans are, what their defense is going to do. That has nothing to do with the Franks hearing, even though they filed it as part of the Franks hearing. The Odinism was a defense strategy of what they were going to say to the public, of why they're going to say Richard Allen is innocent, because they're going to throw this alternative out there. So why would it suddenly go out? Well, back then we were saying easily that, oh, how interesting that these extra 100 pages go out with the Franks hearing that's talking about Odinism, white supremacy, all of this type of stuff, and that they describe photos, and then somehow the photos also get leaked out there. Well, to fit the narrative for the defense, the photos would have to get out there because the defense wants everybody to listen to what they're saying,
To
look at
believe
an
their
image
narrative.
that maybe they altered, and they're trying to make it look like whatever they are. But
I mean,
you have a man who, regardless of this happening, you have a man who committed suicide because of this leak and involvement, possibly, of it going out. It happens right after he's questioned. And there should be, how do you ignore contempt charges with the dirty play of what, in my opinion, the defense is doing, but also because this dirty play involves somebody who ended committing suicide.
Exactly.
Now
And
you
you
wonder,
know how I feel about that too. I do believe someone should be held responsible for that too. Sorry, but that, in my opinion. But sorry, go ahead.
I think the other part is that, so when we don't know why Fortson was assisting, we don't know technically how Westerman got engaged and involved with Fortson, but I will tell you that Fortson's background, his family originally, although he had family out of Kokomo, his family originally came from Delphi. So then you wonder, you know, a person who is going to get involved in this case and about Delphi and about these murders, when his family originated from that same hometown, which is horrible. And I don't think people should overlook that this isn't just damaging to Abby and Libby's family. And remember, the prosecutor reports that when the photos get out there, that's how the prosecution learns that they're out there.
Right.
It's Abby and Libby's family who contact the prosecutor to be like, hey, there's photos going out there saying, you know, that it's the crime scene.
You know,
but we've got a gentleman who committed suicide.
It makes me sad to think as well that we know that there are some people who obviously cover the Delphi case who don't have the best intentions, in my opinion. So it makes me sick to think that it's possible that someone might have even sent these pictures directly to a member of the families.
Oh.
You know,
Probably,
like,
definitely to verify whether to verify.
Oh.
I wouldn't put it past them, to be honest, for someone on like in this community to do something like that.
It makes me sick, physically sick to even think about it. Oh God.
Yeah.
And you know, and here's the thing. I mean, being a YouTube true crime channel, you know, I think that there's different people who take on different responsibilities for what your channel is going to be
Mm-hmm.
and what it's not going to be. And I know for the Justice Served Daily channel, we want it to be a helpful, supportive, informative, educational channel to help other people, to help cases, to help cold cases, to help missing,
Yeah.
and to support families. But
Yeah.
to be the ones who try to be out there, to be the ones to first get information, or to try to be like, wow, we got first information and we're going to show you inappropriate crime scene photos that is going to hurt the family, is
Yeah.
beyond
Mm-mm.
what, in my opinion, a true crime YouTube channel should be.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And
No.
it's beyond even theories. It doesn't even matter what your theory is.
No.
It doesn't
Right.
even matter if you believe in the Odinism, even for
No.
that matter. That doesn't mean then you go show a defense team photo that these families don't know the details or what the crime scene looked like directly. And then you go hurt the family and honestly hurt the case. Because remember,
Yeah.
we showed the video from FBI and other people talking about that the only other people who are going to know about this case, the only people who are going to know about this crime scene are going to be
Yeah.
people involved in the murder.
Correct.
And when you go expose them, whether
what have they
altered or
been-
not altered, you just made many people aware of the crime scene.
Right.
Yeah. And people can say what they want about law enforcement and how they've handled the case, but it's undeniable that from the beginning they have done everything they can and kept everything in that they can to try and protect this case when it goes to trial.
Right.
They've, like, the amount of information we still don't know, and we didn't know until very recently. There was such a long time in the beginning of this where we only had a limited amount of things. We had, you know, the bridge guy audio and the video and, you know, a couple of things in the timeline that we knew, but we didn't have anything else yet.
Right.
Right.
So
And,
Well,
it's
they
just,
and
hold
we
things
don't,
back
nobody
intentionally.
needs this information
no,
if it's
nobody.
going to hurt the case.
Mm-hmm.
There is
Um,
no channel out there whatsoever. There is no news agency. There is no podcast. There is no YouTube. There is no anything out there
Yeah.
that needs this information so desperately that it should jeopardize the case that's
No.
going on. And then when you add this, that the only reason that this got out there is because this defense team, or at least one member of the defense team, in my opinion, because I really almost feel bad for Rozzi because I don't feel like it's him. I don't feel like he knew.
He was almost guilty by association.
Right. And it's
basically.
because they're up together on the case.
Right.
But that they turn around and have this information leaked, not once. You know, we're not talking, oh, well, now we're going out to do the press release, even though we told you we weren't going to.
No,
Don't
was
do the gag
ongoing.
order. We're going to do this.
Mhm.
Oh, don't do this. We got it out to Woodhouse. We knew when Woodhouse came out. Everybody was talking about when Woodhouse came out. Nobody
Yep.
was sure whether they believed him or didn't believe him or whatever.
Right.
But we knew when the Woodhouse came out. And that was ignored for a while at first because people didn't realize if it was true or not true. And then as more information gets out there, well, Baldwin knew it was true, and he still didn't contact and tell people that he accidentally, as I use air quotes, sent it to Woodhouse. And now here we have somebody else he's consulting who's not an attorney, who's not on the case, who's not a hired person, who comes by, he talks to him, gives him the information, that is the so-called Franks hearing, which is more than that. It's their theory they're going to fight. And instead of waiting for the jury to tell the jury about the Odinism, they made it get released to the public by releasing it in part of the Franks hearing as being that way, which they were ticked off about too. And then they made sure the photos got out there, because now somehow that person leaks it to somebody else who's making sure it's going out there on the internet. And you can't ignore that then when this person is addressed about it, this person goes and commits suicide. And somebody lost a family member, a husband,
Absolutely.
a father. I don't know what their reasons were. I don't know what their connection involvement was, other than, you know, how they met. You know, they didn't live far from each other in Hamilton County. That's not super close, but somehow they knew each other. Somehow he had a background of family from Delphi, and he was helping get that information out. But he has a hesitation from that. And that's in the rest of part of number 20. If you want to go ahead and finish reading that page.
Yeah, sure. An investigation into that death led law enforcement to find out shortly before his death he had expressed concerns about the open investigation concerning the discovery leak in this case, and stated to someone that if he just came clean, all of this would go away. Which is quite sad when you think
It
about
is sad.
Number 21. That a search warrant on the iCloud account of Mitch Westerman revealed screenshot photographs of conversations between Mitch Westerman and defense counsel Andrew Baldwin, wherein they candidly discuss the Richard Allen case and candidly talk about the court and the state, displaying a free flow of information that is protected by the court's gag order and the order protecting discovery. Number 22. That the investigation shows the defense counsel failed to secure evidence and discovery materials in this case, specifically graphic crime scene photos, which were then distributed to the public and put on the internet in violation of the court order dated February 17th, 2023. And evidence supports a conclusion that the disclosure was ongoing. Not a one-time occurrence, it was ongoing.
Yep.
Number 23. That on October 19th, 2023, and again at the hearing held on October 31st, 2023, David Hennessy, attorney for Andrew Baldwin, suggested to the court that both attorneys be sanctioned for their actions. Those sanctions have yet to be addressed. Another interesting point. 24. That the state was notified in the beginning of the leak by the defense by the families of the victims. Since that time, the state has had an opportunity to talk to the families of the victims about the photos and the information that was leaked. The amount of harm and re-victimization that this has caused the families of the victims is unmeasurable and incurable. Number 25. That the press release and the 2 occasions of leaked information show a trend by defense counsel Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin of not being completely honest with the court, violating the court's gag order set in place to protect the integrity of the case, and failing to comply with the protective order put in place to protect the discovery in this case. Wherefore, now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClelland, and swears under the penalties of perjury that the information is true and accurate to the best of the state's knowledge, based on filings, personal knowledge, and police investigations. The state asks the court to issue a rule to show cause, order based on this information, and set this matter for a hearing and an order attorney Brad Rozzi and Andrew Baldwin to appear and show cause, if there be any, why they should not be held in contempt by this court. Signed, Nicholas C. McClelland.
So I think that itself was informative,
Eye-opening.
you know, as far as very much more specific details in what the defense team is accused of doing, of everything that happened, a little bit more specifics that we didn't have. It obviously revealed the gentleman's name. FORTSON was now generally back to the public, right? So we've got that. So this specific hearing date that was scheduled by Gall for February 12th for this hearing to handle the contempt.
Yeah.
In addition to the contempt hearing, the other thing that will be addressed on that day is the change of amended charges to Richard Allen. And I have those up. And this is asking the court about changing the charges information filed in the case.
Yeah.
Now, I want to make clear, because I know some people have been confused by this. And again, I apologize when I cough. That the charges, there have not been any charges that have been dropped. There have been charges that have been added, but not dropped. Yeah. So they show October 28th, the state filed a charging information alleging the offenses murdered as outlined in count 1, murder as outlined in count 2. The defendant was arrested on October 26, 2022 by detective with the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. That the probable cause affidavit executed by then detective, now Sheriff Tony Liggett, and filed by the state on October 28th of 2022, identified acts of murder on or about February 13th of 2017. The discovery in this cause also revealed around acts of murder occurring in Carroll County on that date. So the charging information and their probable cause in this matter reflect the charge of murder under, and then they had the Indiana Code, commonly referred to as felony murder, specifically that Richard Allen did kidnap victim 1 and victim 2 by force, and in the process of committing that felony, both victim 1 and victim 2 were murdered. We've covered this before, but just to remind everybody that felony murder means that somebody died while you were committing a felony.
Yeah.
The felony at this time is kidnapping, which is considered a felony. But they had not yet added the kidnapping charges to the felony murder. So right. The felony murder is that basically they just have to prove that Richard Allen kidnapped the girls and that the girls ended up murdered because he kidnapped the girls. So that's how he would be found guilty on felony murder. But the additional is that the state hereby moves to amend the charging information to add additional counts, which includes murder, Indiana Code, for both victims 1 and 2, along with kidnapping under Indiana Code, both victims 1 and 2. The state is asking the court for leave to file this amended charges because the charges more accurately aligns the charging information with the cause's discovery and probable cause affidavit. And because of the clarity of the discovery and probable cause affidavit, the defendant has been on notice since the beginning of the case that the amendment does not prejudice the defendant's substantial rights. And I just closed that. That wasn't good.
That's a lovely background there.
Oh, thank you.
Like your screensaver.
That the trial for this matter is 9 months away. Again, this is reflecting the new date that was given for the new attorneys that have now stepped back since they were both reinstated. But they're saying this gives the defense adequate time to prepare to defend based on the amended charges, and that this amendment does not substantially change the state's theory of the case.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is filed by MCLELAND, again, adding this. So he faces 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and then 2 counts of murder, basically murder in the first degree. So that information, also goes for the stuff that, they talk about now that the Indiana Supreme Court information coming out now is stating that it was not a unanimous decision, that the honorable judges from the Indiana Supreme Court were not unanimous in keeping Rozzi and Baldwin on, but were unanimous in keeping Gull on. Gull had not done anything that would make her be removed as special counsel in the case, which also, remember, she was not the first first judge placed for this case. The first judge, Diener, who removed himself from it, if you remember, his exact words at the time were, because he thought the public was bloodlust over the case, and that he wanted to be removed from the case. So Judge Gull was the special judge put in charge of this case. Judge Gull did not do anything wrong because she called out the attorneys for the actions that they did. The only reason, and we'll find out, we'll go through that. We'll go later at another time with the findings from the Supreme Court with you guys. But the only reason that some felt that they should possibly stay in is due to the effect that there was not an actual trial to show that what these attorneys did.
Right.
Now, the judge may have, by error, gave them advance notice that this is going to happen. This information was found out. And, I think you should be removed from the case, and then let them leave. They went ahead and left before they got out there. And now that they know that on February 12th, they're going to face the hearing that they didn't want to face before, they're going to face. So we know that Rozzi, which is the first thing that Paige read, had said that, well, they didn't check my schedule. I'm not available on February 12th. So we need this. We want a continuance on that. And today there was a filing for both attorneys that they are going to be represented by the same attorney who represented Baldwin back in October. And that was the attorney David Hennessy.
Right.
Yeah.
So he is now going to represent them in a limited appearance on behalf of both Baldwin and Rozzi for the charges of contempt. And so they have got him to represent both of them coming up if they don't change the February 12th actual date going on. So I just think it's, I already knew and felt that, in my opinion, that there was dirty stuff going on with the defense team. I don't know how you justify that you think Gull should be removed more so than the attorneys after you find out how much dirty play they've done.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what, you've got where Richard Allen is going to have the opportunity, if he is found guilty, he's going to be able to appeal for a hell of a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons that I guarantee you will be that the stuff that his attorneys did that hurt his case. And that's releasing crime scene photos that were supposed to be protected, releasing a theory out to the public that, you know, were they going to stick with, or are they not going to stick with? Because honestly, they don't have to stick with it. They could change it to whatever the jury.
Even though he fought to get them back, you know.
Without knowing exactly, he doesn't know the details of what they did.
That's the whole point, you know.
You know, so you've got where he just hears, oh, she wants to remove us, and you know, of course, you know, you've got you know, you've got the instance where you're like, okay, well, he doesn't know everything. He doesn't know everything that happened. Of course, he's been working with them. But, you know, then we have, in addition to that, the Franks hearing was reviewed by Gull, again, which is only in regards to whether they throw out the evidence and whether they had probable cause, that she had already judged in favor that the probable cause, they did have probable cause, and that the evidence is going to stay the same. Well, as soon as that happened, what goes on? We have the full defense team going back and refiling every damn thing that they filed before, all over again. They filed again that they want Judge Gold removed from the case. They filed again that they want, now that he was moved to another facility, they want Richard Allen moved from Rawbash Valley to another facility because now supposedly he's being treated like Hannibal Lecter. Which is why I included my Silence of the Lamb image up there for you guys to remember exactly how Hannibal Lecter in the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, that's exactly how he was braced.
Can we just talk about how funny that was, though? I'm sorry, but if you read it, and if you're someone like me who does like horror movies, I thought to myself, have they even seen this movie? Because what they're describing is not what Hannibal Lecter was like in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, I have to admit, we all couldn't stop laughing when we were reading that.
I mean, and to be honest with everybody, here's the thing, and this isn't bullshit here at all. There has been at least 4 in different jails in Indiana where prisoners have died, and investigations going into why the prisoners have died while being held in jail. Mm-hmm. One was a woman, the 3 other were men. And you have to go back to that Richard Allen got moved way back at the very beginning when the first judge excused himself from the trial and asked for another trial to be held. By that point, Richard Allen had already been moved out of Carroll County, because you're talking a little bitty jail. And you're talking about the people who are getting thrown in that jail from the community that he lives in, where he is being accused of murdering 2 little girls from that town, and that they cannot protect him from himself or from others.
Yeah.
So that they have to have him being viewed that he doesn't commit suicide, that they have to have him being viewed that nobody else can get to him, no other person being held in jail. And that was the reason that they decided to have him moved to a prison where he could be secluded
And medical.
and where he could have medical and mental health.
Yep.
Which the defense themselves argued at the beginning, argued that he needed that mental health and medical attention at the time. So then you change all that up, and now, now they went back on that and said, well, it wasn't because of mental health. Remember, this man, this man confessed. He didn't confess in a room with police officers abusing him and pressuring him for 12 hours or 24 hours or 36 hours to confess. He was in jail. He got copies of evidence that was coming from his attorneys, of copies from discovery, from the from the prosecutor's office. He's getting this. He decides to eat one of the papers that he's given when he sees it and reads it.
Yeah.
And then he decides that during a phone call that he knows all phone calls are taped.
And he's
when
on
you're in prison or jail. Doesn't matter which.
No.
All of them are taped.
Oh.
And that while he's doing that, he decides to confess to two separate people. His own mother and his wife.
Yeah. 5 to
Not
6
just
times.
twice, several.
And tells them that he did it. And originally it's because of mental health.
Right.
Then
We don't know
later
the
it's because of Odinism.
But yeah.
And
Exactly.
he smashes the iPad after the conversation too.
Right. After she hangs up on him,
Yeah.
after he tells his wife, I did this.
She ended the call abruptly.
Yeah.
Right. And he breaks it. And they decide not to charge him the $250 replacement fee for the pad that he's using to communicate. Right? So we've got you've got the defense with all of this, the Westerman, the FORTSON, the holy crap, all the evidence is going to be included. So now let's just go refile every damn thing we just filed before. Let's file to remove the judge again. Let's file. We want him moved from that jail or prison in Wabash, which honestly, let's all be frank, it's because they want him close by. He doesn't give a crap whether that guy's being held safely. He doesn't care whether that guy's receiving the medical attention he needs, which they already said they can't do that in the jail. They don't have people to go back and forth. Everybody knows this, no matter where you live, at least across the U.S., we have a shortage of law enforcement everywhere. They don't have law enforcement to drive him back and forth to go see a medical doctor and a psychologist all the time back and forth to go do this.
Nope.
They don't. Now, the murder charges to talk about, here's the thing. The murder charges could have been enhanced, and this is obviously totally in my opinion, but the murder charges could have been elevated because if they think that maybe Richard Allen didn't actually murder, but he kidnapped, took them someplace else, and if there's somebody else involved with the murder, then if you put murder 1 on the table, then that also gives you something to try to maybe get him to plead down to. Remember, they said he wasn't given the right to have a speedy trial, yet the only people who prevented him from having the right of a speedy 70-day trial was Baldwin and Rozzi. They never filed the document. That's
Right.
why the Indiana Supreme Court couldn't give that to them. That's why Gall couldn't give it to them. They never filed the documents for him to have a speedy trial. So why hold on to that? They asked them at the Indiana Supreme Court hearing, why have they held on to that for 2 months? He wants a 70-day trial, and his own attorneys held on to that for 2 months. Why?
I don't understand how anyone is defending the defense. I really don't.
I don't either. Not when you know I mean, there can be very good defense attorneys, and a lot of these defense attorneys, you know, why go plead this in the public? And unfortunately, we have seen a lot of cases where a defense attorney tries to become the celebrity and the focus of the trial. And that shouldn't happen here, because the focus of this trial is justice for Abby and Libby.
Absolutely.
It's not about Richard Allen. It's not about his attorneys. It's not about Judge Gall. It's not about anything. It is about justice for Abby and Libby. In order to do that, people need to stop screwing with leaking evidence and information and try it like they're supposed to. All of this information is only out there because the defense team let it go out there. Mm-hmm. And they deceivingly let it go out there repeatedly, not once, not twice, several times. And maybe Richard Allen filed a 70-day trial because he already confessed to his wife and his mom. Maybe he's ready to be done. Yeah. Maybe he wants to confess and be done with it.
Could be.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's the case, then they're not doing him any justice. And Baldwin's, you know, big famous thing that he did for the case prior to this was that he got a guy off for a triple murder by having the probable cause affidavit thrown out. And so all the evidence against the guy was thrown out. Well, guess what? That's not working here. So what's your next trick?
And there will be one.
What is the next?
Sorry to say.
What is the next thing? Now it is, just like I wrote in my community post to you guys. I hope you guys do watch the Justice Warrior community posts, because I do updates most of the time daily of everything going on in documents. And just like I said there, do your job. You're a defense attorney. Do your job. Defend Richard Allen. Go through the evidence. Get your expert witnesses. That's what the MCLELAND has asked for, and they weren't ready for, and that's why they filed to remove Judge Gall and do this continuance again, because MCLELAND asked now that the defense team give them who their witnesses are going to be and who their expert witnesses are going to be. And guess what? They don't have them. Mm-hmm. So if murder one is on the table and we're waiting to find out about other people involved with the case, then we talked about this very big in the prior video that was about the setup, the Anthony shot setup for Richard Allen. I hope you guys have watched it. It is a marathon that I like to call. I know other people do that. Often I don't, but it was a lot of detail. But I wanted to show you guys this video. We brought up in the case, and you guys will probably remember, that in the interview with Barbara McDonald, Keegan Klein shares with her that he had not talked to his dad in a couple of weeks. And the reason was because that his dad's house had been raided by the police. And it was raided by the police just before, publicly, we all learned two things. We learned about Anthony shots, and then we learned that immediately following, that they already had Keegan Kline in jail. Well, before that information came out, which the only reason that came out was because it was discovered by Channel 8, Wish TV, and they had went to the state police and said, we know about Anthony Schatz, we know about Keegan Kline, and then that's why those videos were released. Well, when Barbara McDonald interviewed him, December of 2021, that's when Keegan said his house was raided, and he thinks his dad was blaming him for that. And his dad stopped speaking to him after that. So I want to show you this clip of a neighbor who talks to the Fox 59 News, and he confirms that their house was raided by unmarked cars. And this is when they took the dog. And I'll just show you that clip because I just want to show you proof of them talking to this particular neighbor. And actually, now that I think about that, let me make sure. I'm going to unshare and reshare because I want to make sure that my sound is on. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Entire screen. Yep, I'm glad I did that. And share. Okay. All right.
From Peru.
This is the house in Peru where a neighbor told me federal agents and local police visited just a couple weeks ago, looking for information about this man, 27-year-old Keegan Anthony Kline, and his father.
And they asked me a few questions. That whole parking lot was full. There was at least 12 cars there, unmarked vehicles. They were all trucks and SUVs. They went in his house and they took his dog.
According to this probable cause affidavit, state police detectives and FBI agents first went looking for the man who made the social media post titled Anthony Schatz. The post included fake photos, not of himself, and the user allegedly asked young girls for nude photos and offered to meet them. This happened just 12 days after Abigail Williams and Liberty German were found dead in a wooded area of Delphi in Carroll County in February of 2017. Court records quote, Kline is telling investigators that he created the Anthony Schatz profile and, quote, he received approximately 100 sexual pictures from underage girls.
Did you guys hear that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So, as you saw in the
Delphi
beginning
investigators
of this, where they're talking
Federal
to this,
The whole parking lot was full. There was at least 12 cars. That whole parking lot was full. There was at least 12 cars there, unmarked vehicles. They were all trucks and SUVs. They went in his house and they took his dog.
According to this probable cause.
so that interview was done after this search warrant, the second search warrant that
I
we
really
do not
believe
have
everyone
probable
else
cause
did.
from. So of information that we have from there, we have that we never got the probable cause from the interview from Keegan Kline when he was first arrested and talked about Delphi. And then we don't have the probable cause for the search warrant and information about everything that was taken from Tony Kline while Keegan was in jail in 2021, which he talks about that they removed the dog. They take their dog and stuff out of the house. And they're all unmarked cars. So why was there the second search warrant? What were they looking for? It wasn't additional charges that was added from CSAM because there wasn't anything added for 2020, 2021.
And if they took the dog, what else did they take that we just don't know about?
Exactly.
Right. And we know from everything we covered, that could be from the Emily Ann discussions that were going on, that Emily Ann is talking to girls across the whole country. That is according to the interview with Cecil, who runs the Internet Crimes Against Children for the Indiana State Police, talks about that Emily Ann was talking to girls all across the United States, was talking about that not all the girls were even identified in the state of Indiana that even Keegan Kline was talking to. Only 6 to 7 of the 15 were identified at that point, just in Indiana. That Emily Ann would ask the girls that they were talking to across the country if they would have sex with her father, who her father at the time she was describing was in his 40s. And then he would have Emily Ann would then suddenly switch over to speaking to then Keegan Kline's on social media to try to talk to them and schedule them, about trying to meet somebody. So Emily Ann is, also sharing a Dropbox, links, images with children as young as 3 years old, images of girls from all over the place, horrific videos, screens, all kinds of stuff. Was that search in Emily Ann? Was that search still more Delphi information? What is that additional search? But in order to have murder one, in order for there not to be reasonable doubt, they're going to have that additional person that Doug Carter and McClelland refer to during the October 31st press conference when they arrested Richard Allen.
Yeah.
And they both indicate that still to this day, the Abby and Libby hotline is still open for tips.
Yeah.
And they're still doing that. Then they're going to have it. Now, if you watch the video about the setup for Richard Allen and regarding for Libby, then you saw the timeline that was very much completely broken down for you of when Keegan went to reach out to the Indiana State Police. Keegan's dad was worried about that, and a week before, leading up to the water search, all of a sudden, Dad, who's not visiting him, suddenly makes a bunch of visits. If you didn't see that, go see that. That's documents that I got from the court showing the visits and when they were happening. And then also shows that he goes out, he's taken into custody, he's questioned at the Air Force Base, Grissom Air Force Base. Then that's taking place. And guess what happens, guys? During the weeks of the water search, somehow they find in the Orion system, misfiled, supposedly, allegedly, Richard Allen. And that is in September. And they have that whole time from when they find it in the Orion system until the arrest of Richard Allen till October 26th, when they go get him, talk to his wife, then do the probable cause affidavit to search his home, look for things, and put him under arrest. And then his conference is held October 31st of 2022. And guess what? November 1st of 2022, 5 charges of CSAM are dropped off of Keegan Kline. So,
yeah,
if somebody is going to talk more than they have, like who set up the meeting, who was the Anthony Schatz who set up to meet at the bridge, in order to get charges for murder one, they're going to have to be ready to answer the questions if there's anybody else involved, and if so, who is the other person involved. In my opinion, I think they're going to work that with Keegan while he is trying to get lower time for his current CSAM charges. Right. He wants less than his 40 years. That is an overcharge, in my opinion, based on he did not have production. He only had possession and enticement, solicitation. He did not have production. I think they're going to try to give him less time if he tells who Anthony Schatz is that scheduled the meeting, who else had the Anthony Schatz connection. And I think they turn around and tell Richard Allen, we've now added murder 1, which could include the death penalty. And if you talk, if there was anybody else involved who helped you set this up, then we'll give you felony murder and kidnapping rather than murder, 1st degree. And I think that's what has to happen for there not to be any reasonable doubt, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I agree.
I think we all feel the same on that.
And guys, if you haven't seen that video that JSD is talking about, you know, it's all about the Klein connection, Anthony Schatz. How did that come to Richard Allen, you know, and the girls? How did they end up being murdered? So it is quite a long video, but it is absolutely worth watching. Like we said before, there's so many bits of information that we even forgot about.
Yeah. Oh,
That we
gosh.
put in there. Yeah, it's a good one if you guys haven't seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if
And
you want to
Daisy,
take,
I get it. I think that Keegan played a little bit with because he's a liar, right? We all know that. I think
Oh, yeah.
Keegan Klein played
Mhm.
well, Anthony Schatz did this, I didn't do this. But I also think, you know, Keegan Klein, for example, wasn't into cars maybe as much as his father was.
Yeah.
His father liked to go to the racetrack.
Oh, yeah.
His father
NASCAR.
liked to have bunches of different cars.
He used to take pictures in
worked-
front of any car
He worked at
possible.
the Chrysler plant, you know.
You know, he could be sitting here trying to say that. He talked about the money and stuff like that, just like they said, that isn't your persona of showing money to people. And remember,
Yeah,
the
that
Internet
isn't
Crimes
you.
Against Children guy commented that there's no proof that Keegan Klein ever sent money to anybody whatsoever, or
Yep.
that he ever tried to meet with anybody. So who was trying to meet with Kayla?
Yeah.
Remember, Keegan Klein had
Exactly.
this happen when he was telling the officers and even Barbara McDonald, he was telling them about the incident where he comes home as a teenager. He brings a teenage girl home from school who he thinks is maybe 17 at the time, if he remembers correctly, and that his dad had sex with her. And he was in his 40s then.
Right.
And he's giving that example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little ironic that the Emily Ann who's trying to talk to somebody is then trying to schedule a meetup or ask somebody, hey, you know, would you possibly have sex with my father, Emily Ann asked.
Yeah.
He happens
Why
to be
would
in his
that-
40s.
Why would that ever be a topic of conversation? Like, say
Exactly.
Emily Ann is Keegan Klein, Anthony Schatz is just Keegan Klein. Why are the conversations obviously always a bit different between them both? But
Mhm.
then again, why would he ever bring up a mention of, do you want to have sex with my dad? If
Exactly.
you're a pedophile, you're doing this to solicit your own needs, disgusting needs. But I don't think I've ever heard that before, like a pedophile saying that in a conversation with an underage girl, like, will you have sex with my father?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Well, and then where we have the one we read where the person was, oh, he wants to know if you will get on Skype right now. He
Yeah,
wants to see you on Skype right now. Hurry up, kind of thing.
they wanted the term daddy to be used.
Right. They were using daddy.
Right.
You had to call him daddy.
Again.
And remember,
Mm.
that's exactly what the police were saying to Keegan Klein when they were talking about the conversation that was happening with Libby that weekend.
Absolutely.
Again, if you have not watched that previous show, Anthony Schatz did not start talking to Libby the night before at the sleepover at her house. Anthony Schatz started talking to her that beginning weekend on Friday, February 10th. He was talking to her that full weekend she was off.
Yeah.
And he was communicating with her at the first slumber party that Abby was not at.
Yeah. It was just Libby. Libby was at another friend's
house. Yep.
And that's when Anthony Schatz communicated with her as well.
And remember, the one thing also that kind of sticks out in my mind is that the defense team at the time was very much trying to feed into everybody's mind that the target of this crime was Abby and not Libby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any of you guys who follow true crime whatsoever, and you know, we know based on what we've heard and not what we've seen, but basically what we've all heard. And when I say all of us, I mean all of you guys out there too, is that Libby was undressed. Abby wasn't.
Exactly.
The defense team was trying to argue that the Odinism and the white supremacy was targeted towards Abby. Yet,
Because,
God help her, Libby was the victim. And when a victim, whether a grown woman or a child, a female child, is undressed, then you have to go that it is a sexual component.
Exactly.
Of why the victim
we don't
someone you're going to murder, unfortunately.
We don't say any of that, to take away from anything that obviously Abby experienced too, because it happened to her too. But it is important to point that out. There are connections to suggest that actually Liberty was targeted. And Abby, unfortunately, was with her and had to endure the same fate that she did. But like JSD just mentioned, the fact alone that Libby was undressed, completely undressed, does point to a sexual motive without anything else brought into it. That alone is sexual motive.
I mean, because they're trying to say, like you said, the Odinism was because of the fact that her mom was dating a man of color. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't fit if you're going to look at it in that way. If she was the one that they were actually,
and we've had so many conversations about this privately as well.
Absolutely,
it just does not make sense.
And doesn't it make sense that the reason that they're trying to spin it that way is because they want it the farthest away from the truth that it can be.
Absolutely.
Because think about it. I mean, if you're a defense and you're trying to defend somebody, I would think that one of the things you would try to do is you may try to make it look like somebody else who's involved. And instead of maybe saying Odinism, why wouldn't they say
Anthony
it's Keegan Klein?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they say, oh no, hey, but you guys have evidence that, Anthony Schatz was talking to her before she died. Yep. And you guys know that it's Keegan Klein who created Anthony Schatz.
Why don't they ever bring that up?
Yeah, that would be the easiest alternative explanation for them to bring up, unless something's true to it. If it's true to it, you're going to misdirect everybody in a totally different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Why do you think they're trying to get the probable cause, the search warrant, all that kind of stuff thrown out? I'm sorry, but in my opinion, it's because they know that it's a sinking ship.
Exactly.
So they need to get it thrown out, otherwise.
Like we've said before too, I mean, if they wanted this case done and over with and depended on someone, I'm saying law enforcement, right? Because it's that imperative to get it done.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they have already? Yeah. Why wouldn't they pin it on Ron Logan? Be done with. He's
Again,
dead.
easiest scenario. Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's gone. He can't defend himself. So
Well,
let's put it there if
and to
there's
make
no
sure everybody
evidence.
knows this, and I don't know if everybody does know this or not, but Rozzi used to be Ron Logan's attorney.
Exactly. Rosie was Ron Logan's attorney going through all this before. I'm sorry. Make it make sense. Sorry. You know.
Exactly.
Right. And you know, so if you think, I mean, when they go to what easy other theories that they could pop up with and accuse of it, I mean, my God, I mean, I would think that, like you said, Ron Logan could buy, but Rozzi's not going to do that. He defended him. Exactly. So then they could go to Keegan Kline. Oh, well, guess what? Anthony Schatz was talking to her. Anthony Schatz admitted he was going to meet her. Yeah. She didn't show up. He talked to all her girlfriends. He was busy confirming with the girlfriends that he didn't meet up with her, even though they all knew that she was going to. Think about it. It was near Valentine's Day. She liked this guy. We know that he had been talking to her as Anthony Schatz since December. We showed you guys proof in that video. Exactly. So he started, and when did he make this? He made it exactly 1 year before the girls died.
Exactly.
July 14th, Anthony Schatz was created in Instagram and Snapchat. That's when they created it, in 2016. So at least by December, we know he's already liking Instagram, Snapchat photos and stuff of hers.
Who's to say that there isn't actually evidence that even law enforcement had to show that he was communicating or liking her posts and stuff even prior to December?
Oh, exactly. And here's the difference. So let's say for instance, okay, the Emily Ann is saying, will you meet up with my dad? And, you know, maybe, and this is totally hypothetical, total, what's the word I'm looking for?
Theory?
Well, not theory.
A conspiracy theory?
Not a conspiracy theory.
I'm kidding.
But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? This is total like a, you know, throwing this out there. Let's say hypothetically that Keegan would set up for his dad, for example. So if his dad, let's say if his dad would be the 40-something-year-old talking as Emily Ann, and then would switch it over to Keegan Kline, and Keegan Kline would then try to get the girl to meet. Well, Keegan Kline would always talk how he wouldn't meet. So he turns around and he gets this person to meet. Remember, Kayla, he set up to go meet her in a park in Kokomo, Forest Park in Kokomo, Indiana. So if he sits here and he goes and he's doing this stuff, now you've got Anthony Schatz. Anthony Schatz wasn't sent over to Keegan Kline to make friends with. Anthony Schatz was talking to 2 girls starting that weekend. And Keegan basically admits that he was talking to Libby's friend, that he wasn't talking to Libby. He said he thought she was irritating. He was even trying to say that he blocked her, but he was talking to her girlfriend the whole time. So you've got Anthony Schatz, who's talking to 2 different girls starting the weekend on February 10th. Now, this Anthony Schatz, though, the one talking to Libby, says, let's meet up. It isn't going to be a Keegan Kline meeting up in a park or even a Tony Kline that somebody's going to think of, right? It isn't going to be that meeting up in a park. The person, Libby, or anybody is going to think it's Anthony Schatz who's showing up, not anybody else. He talks about driving her in a car. He talks about taking her out. So she's thinking that Anthony Schatz is the one who's going to show up. So now when you get there, no matter what, you're surprising her because you're like, okay, wait a minute. I don't see him. He's not there. Why is this person coming over?
Well, yeah, that's something we've had a conversation about probably 100 times as well. Trying to figure out why Libby started the video. And we even brought up, like, it's possible she could have started a video even before they realized that he was coming towards them. She could have
Right.
been filming Abby. She could have taken a picture of Abby and then started filming her. Because we know that we do see Abby, you know, slightly in the frame, and we know that Abby is the one that, you know, mentions that gun. So it's possible it could have started that way, and maybe she didn't just start it because of this creepy guy, but he happened to come into it as she was taking a video.
Right.
But it could be so many scenarios. That's another thing. Like, we don't know. That's why we've talked about things like this 100 times.
Well, and I have to say, I can't. I still believe
Mhm.
in the possibility of someone being already waiting on the other side
Mm-hmm.
of the river
Yep.
for them to cross.
Yeah.
The only
because-
reason I say that is because I feel like that if Richard Allen had done this before, he screwed up big time and would have given this up, because he got seen by a lot of people, yet he still continued on with doing what he did. He got seen by the girls, which he confirmed. The girls witnessed him coming. Those are the girls he confirmed that he saw. The other lady who saw him out near walking across the bridge, she confirmed that she saw him. So he's still seen by people, and he still goes through with it. And we know that he's got the gun. So does he bring a gun and a knife? Does he sit here and have something where maybe the gun gets knocked out of his hand, or he uses it to hit one of the girls unconscious or something, and the bullet falls out
Right.
between them? And then does he end up pulling out a knife, or does somebody else have a knife there
Already there.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know, does he remember? There are a lot of witnesses and a lot of other rumors that we know about that happen, and or that we've heard that's happened. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, you know, of things that went on, we know that there are one, if not two, confirmed other witnesses who saw somebody who we do not see in the probable cause affidavit for Richard Allen. However, one of those somebody saw someone coming out from the woods onto the trail. So if they saw someone coming out onto the trail, then that wasn't Richard Allen, because Richard Allen was walking on 300 North.
Right.
So who was that person who stepped out from the woods onto the trail?
Onto the trail.
Mhm.
We also know that the employee who worked across the street had talked earlier in the day about cars parked next to the side of the road towards the woods, not parked in the parking lot, not parked at the PCA building,
On the
but
side.
who was parked there, who could have been checking out the actual location. And if they're checking out the location, it's because they haven't been there as often, or not sure where they're going. And could have they found that spot farther down on Ron Logan's property, and they were waiting for Richard Allen to get the girls to cross the Wabash River right there,
Mm-hmm.
and that they were to be taken there to meet. Because I do have a hard time trying to imagine Richard Allen by himself, as short in stature as he was and as small as he was, being able to take control over Libby and Abby,
Yep.
both at the same time.
Absolutely. Both athletes, you know, they were both athletic. Certainly, I'm sure could have run a lot faster than him and gotten away. But when you hear gun, you know,
Right.
it's a little bit more serious.
Right.
especially for 2 young girls, you know,
So
who
when you
realize they're
have
not tracked.
So when you have that and they turn around and say, okay, they're definitely charging him with felony murder of that for kidnapping, which they can prove pretty easily with the video, with the audio, you know, and anything else that we know there is more audio. We definitely know there is more audio than what we have. There is more taping of that video, you know, the video itself. And more is heard than what we know of. So, you know, and Libby, I'm sure when she's filming, she's probably thinking this creepy person is just going to come up and say something weird to her. Maybe she was catfish, but for God's sake, she's not going to think they're going to be murdered.
No.
That something like that severe is going to happen. But it's the intention of what was going to happen. So, you know, they always talk about there's not a lot of coincidences in true crime. Well, you're telling me that Anthony Schatz is going to meet with her. She's talked about meeting him. She finally wants to meet him. And that's going to happen that day. She's been talking to him since that Friday to try to meet with him, to try to figure out where can they go and when can they go to meet with him. And that's not unusual. I mean, you know, for all the women out here who have been teenage girls, right? You go, you talk to a boy or something on there, you know, you'd go meet him at the mall or meet him somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not an
Sure.
unusual thing to do.
Mm-mm.
And it's not like you're going to go tell your father and stuff, you know, oh, yeah, I'm going to go meet this boy I've been talking to online. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do it.
No.
But I still have that feeling that, you know, somebody else is going to be there. I do have an issue with, okay, if we've got Keegan who's admitting he's in a red Jeep and he's waiting, why would he wait for Richard Allen? To me, that makes no sense.
Right.
Even if he's going to give a phone or something, whatever it's going to be to Richard Allen, why is he going to have to stay there for him? Richard Allen can walk home. He can walk back to work. His car is even parked at the PCA building unless he left it there. Right? And he got
That's not
driven
that
home by
far.
somebody else. The only reason that Keegan would be there is for somebody else. I just don't think Keegan is going to sit there while Richard Allen, who's a guy way older than him, is trying to meet up with the girls as Anthony Schatz. But all of the devices that they took from his house, you know, is he still going to have something from, you know, an Anthony Schatz or something like that? No. If he's into CSAM, if he's into anything strange, you know, which we've heard things, I can't confirm it, so I don't want to say it.
Right.
But if they find something that we've heard of that may be on the devices that he had, then that would explain an awful lot to maybe the reasoning and stuff that something was going on. But I think that this carrying on and on and on for Richard Allen's defense team may make it where, you know, to the point where Richard Allen's like, you know what? I don't want to keep doing. I do want a quick trial. I want this over with. I want a deal. I want to be, you know, not worry about the death penalty. And I want to be close enough that my family can possibly visit me. So I'll confess and I'll say whoever else is involved. Because I think if
Right.
Keegan Kline by himself comes forward and says who Anthony Schatz is, who scheduled the meeting, I don't know if Keegan Kline's trustworthy enough for anybody to believe whatever the hell he says.
Yeah.
Give us facts, period.
But I do think if Keegan Kline would come forward and say who did it, who was playing Anthony Schatz, who scheduled the meeting, and then Richard Allen confirms that, I think Richard Allen would go ahead and get felony murder instead of murder 1. And I think Keegan Klein would get some years removed from his current sentence. Although I do feel like he's still going to have felony charges come up. I do think he'll have some time taken off his current sentence of 40 years.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say something, JSD, real quick? It kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier on in the show. I mean, and this is really more for, you know, the people that watch your show and so forth. I mean, we all sit here together and we are always talking about things amongst ourselves and stuff, you know, not necessarily conspiracy theories. It's not like that, but we're always going, you know, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? You know, so we do talk amongst ourselves. But one thing I have to say about JSD's channel is whenever a show is put out to the audience, she always makes sure it's with integrity, that she can back things up with facts. I mean, you may hear us say occasionally, in my opinion, or something to that effect, something that we may have discussed amongst ourselves. But that's one thing I can always say to you guys is anytime JSD puts something out, you're going to get facts. She will show you facts. You know, I'm sorry. I apologize. I just wanted to say that. But, but we do talk amongst ourselves. We do that.
You guys would be, I mean, honestly, we could do, I don't even know how many shows of research that we have that we share back and forth in Discord. Because when we get a name or a family connection or something else, we deep dive into that. So I can't even tell you how many hours.
And we all have our own little thing that we do.
Yes.
and we do tons of it. And sometimes we have stuff and it's like, you know what? I've only got it from this one place. I can't confirm it over here, or I don't know for sure. So I don't want to quite say anything there. Or if I, you know, something else finally comes out, then, you know, we'll bring that forward and stuff to you guys or whatever.
Of course.
And, you know, if, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there. Could there be other things and other stuff going on out there that we don't know about? Of course. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because we're just like any other YouTube channel or podcast or whatever that you watch. We're sitting here going off of facts and our own research. We'll only bring the research to you if, you know, we can prove it there.
Absolutely.
We do find a lot of, we do find out so much. Like I said, we could probably do 10 shows just of showing you guys the research we have in our thing. You know, and we go through all of it, but
we all became friends because of this case. So
yes, we did.
Yeah.
And we are good friends. We're not we don't just sit here and we argue. JSD and I constantly.
Right. Mama Bear drives me crazy. I don't argue with Jinx at all, though. I'm just going to say that at all.
Of course. Jinx is our sweetheart.
Yes, she's the...
Mwah.
Right.
And of course, and Paige is the baby, so we just got to love her.
Yeah.
But JSD and I can, you know, we can, you know, go after you. No, I'm just kidding. We do love each other.
I think, you know, here's the thing. I think there's a lot of stuff out there. Everybody has their own theories. I've never not shared with you guys that I've had a bias due to a lot of the CSAM cases that I do, a lot of the research that I do from what these predators do out there online, and what these predators do to meet girls and all this stuff. Tracking not only in Indiana, but I track outside that. I track rings that get busted. I track the transmit. And you know what? And this is a good opportunity for me to say this. I don't follow CSAM because I like to. Okay.
No.
Some of the CSAM, I get to a point where I cannot listen or read it or watch it or whatever anymore to find out what's going on. I only do it to try to help warn all of you out there and your kids and your families about what is the trend, about what is happening, about the laws that you can help pass, which I shared that recently.
Yes.
We just had on Capitol Hill a bunch of the CEOs and executives for social media companies that are protected from being sued, whether your children are lured in by predators, whether your children's images are put up on these sites, whether these pedophiles turn around and share that stuff with each other. And these agencies, these companies are protected from the Rule 230. And there is laws out there trying to get passed. I put that in my community post. Again, please watch community post. It talks about the laws of Stop CSAM Act and other laws that are trying to be passed. And if you don't push for your own representatives and congresspeople that you care about it and you want it passed so that your kids are protected online, whether it's your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, your sisters, your siblings, whomever it could be, if you don't try to get that passed, then they just let it go by and they don't care about it.
Yeah.
And right now those are up to be able to hold these companies accountable. And I think they should be held accountable.
Absolutely.
And I only cover the CSAM stuff to try to help educate and warn everybody about what is going on. And Libby's and Abby's case very much brought that up when you talked about Anthony Shots, when it talked about the Yellow app. And that is why I started a channel, honestly, was to go into that, because there was a lot of YouTubers who weren't covering about the Yellow app.
No.
And they were not covering about the catfishing that these people do and the growth of CSAM in Indiana and the growth of international rings that are throughout, not just Indiana, all through our country, but, obviously specifically Indiana and surrounding states that I want to make sure you guys and your kids and families are protected from. So that's the reason I do it. So I just want you all to know that. And I do it in honor of Libby and Abby, because that this could happen to them is horrific.
Yeah.
And that it was just a teenage girl who thought she met a teenage boy online. And that is so common. These predators do it all the time. They pretend they're girls and boys and they talk to your kids online. And you want to know what app is safe? No app is safe. They go to wherever kids are going to be on it. And they get them, whether they're playing video games online, whether on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Make sure their location finder isn't on. For God's sakes, make sure they're not on Yubu or Yellow app.
Oh, God, no.
Or Snapchat.
It's
just not safe in any way whatsoever.
Lynn, I know about the law that Florida is passing for under age 16. I think a lot of states should pass that. And you can talk to your own representatives and that to have that done. But right now the federal government is passing the Stop CSAM Act, the Take It Down, all of those different ones that I've posted in the community post. So I think I've said from the very beginning, I really believe that the legacy that Libby and Abby will leave behind is for parents and children to become more aware of online predators
And you actually
And-
created a video on that too.
Yeah.
And yep,
sure did.
and I did one on that.
Yeah.
And that I think that will be their legacy in warning children about this. And I think that's a great honor that we can say to them, period, and contribute to them.
Just so you
So-
know, excuse me, JSD, just so you know, you may want to take a look at chat. People are just really thanking you and for all the work that you do. And, you know, like, and again, I don't want to leave anybody out, but like Daisy, she, you know, it's true. We knew her back from, you know, back in the day, you know, from Callie's and, you know,
Yep.
so, I mean, and
She
Lynn,
says
we've known from back
even
then. So,
then,
you know,
she
it's,
said that even then you stood out, JSD.
yes.
Yeah. Well,
Very
I
sweet of
appreciate
you
that,
guys.
guys. And let me tell you, I am not a monetized channel on purpose.
No.
Several reasons. One is because when you monetize through YouTube, they want you to not use the words when people are sexually abused or child sexual abuse material, or if women or children are raped. I'm not going to use code words for that.
Eh,
What happens to them is what happens to them. And I think that I think YouTube needs to get into gear with what true crime people are into, and they need to adjust to true crime. I don't think true crime should adjust and cover up what is happening to people.
Exactly.
And
Saying unalive, they're unalive. I mean,
right.
seriously.
If somebody's murdered, they're murdered. I mean, to say unalive makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, and I feel like it takes away from what happened to them. Like
exactly.
Exactly.
From the victim.
Yep.
They're the victim, and now you're.
You don't decide how to tell this story. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I will say this because Mama Bear will make me. Not that I don't appreciate any support. Which, yes, I do have a Cash App thing. So, if you want to tip me a Big Mac or whatever, I don't know what those are. Tip me I don't drink coffee. I like hot chocolate. Tip me a hot chocolate, whatever. You know, that's fine and great. Only because, you know, the stuff, you know, StreamYard and all this stuff does cost crap.
The
and to get cases and stuff. But when I go on, I try to do it where I help the family. If the families have a sudden murder of their child or anybody like that, that they need help with their funeral cost or whatever, I'll always put up what they're raising money for. That's like, like Jinx. Jinx is in here. I know Jinx does a lot of work for the Flora 4.
Yes.
She goes out there and does a lot of stuff for them. She is great in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've shared stuff and things on that too before. And, that's what the purpose of why I did the channel was, for that reason. And why I try to help. I try to share what information I have. I'm going to share my opinion. I'm going to share my bias. Again, I believe that Klein is connected. I can't let that go. I feel it deep in my gut and heart that connection is not just a regular coincidence of some type. I can't let that go.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, because I'm not a monetized channel, YouTube does not help me, go out there that my show gets streamed and hit a lot and a million people watching. I mean, I have a lot of subscribers, which I'm very proud of. So the only way I get that out there is if you guys share information, about the channel, if you share information about subscribing and get others to subscribe and like. Also, if you have a case, it doesn't have to be in Indiana. If you have a case that you think needs covered or needs help, or it's somebody missing, or it's unsolved, or something that you've seen on that, send me an email at justiceserveddaily That's spelled out all as one word at gmail.com. And I will take a look at it. I will warn you, when I'm working with, other cases and trying to help with that, I'll have to get it in the mix of what things we're working on. Which does remind me, I did do an update for Valerie Tyndall, girl out of Rush County, and they are making a plea deal with Patrick Scott, which was their neighbor, and she had known for 2 years prior to it. It's a really sad case. I had reached out and talked to her mother again. They knew about the plea deal being negotiated. There was a lot of information that the FBI was holding close to them without really revealing it all out there. But it looks like he's pled guilty. They're waiting for the acceptance of the plea deal. And I'm still hoping that maybe I can have Valerie's mom on here once that all gets taken care of and stuff, or we can learn more about, Valerie and all of that. But it's such a sad case that, her mom really thinks that they tried to move her from the Indianapolis area thinking they were moving someplace safe. And one thing that she commented is she thought she moved someplace safe, and then she ended up moving her next door to the person who murdered her. Yeah. And it was so sad just to even hear that. Oakley Snow, we're still following. There hasn't been a deal made in that case yet. But their trials and stuff are also coming up. So we'll be watching that to make sure justice is served for Oakley Snow as well. And that's the 2-year-old who went missing. So, but I do appreciate all of you guys. Oh, Mother of Dragons is in here too. Yeah. We appreciate y'all being a Hawkeye. Hello, Hawkeye.
Hey.
And
we're blessed. We're so blessed to have all of you guys. I mean, truly, we really are. We may be a small channel, but we enjoy doing this. If we didn't, we wouldn't be doing it. I mean,
they're coming for Mama Bear now.
They're coming for you.
Oh, I got to shut the door.
Yeah.
You could hear that?
No.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just want to share that with you guys. We'll keep you updated. I will have, I'm working on the big bust of a bunch of predators who have been arrested for production of CSAM, which I think is connected to a lot of the CSAM that they have found recently as well. And I'm also watching a case of in Indianapolis. There is 2 women they found murdered on the east side of Indianapolis, that they believe these murders are connected, and they're following and watching that case carefully. So, by the way, Daisy's singing Bad Boys for Mama Bear right now. Bad boys, bad boys.
Daisy. Thanks, Daisy.
It's Bad Bears. Bad Bears, Bad Bears.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Ay.
I see, JK. You know what? It's because I've sat here and I ended up sick after I did the last show. I've been sick for 3 weeks. I've just been sipping hot coffee or hot chocolate to make sure I didn't cough like a maniac for you guys. So
just through this show.
Yes. Brittany Wood, she's a missing person. I'll have to look at that, Jamie.
Yeah, I haven't heard of her. I'll definitely look into that too.
And as you guys know, I'll always be following the Deborah Fulton case up in Hammond, that I shared with you guys about. That's the case that really kind of got me started in true crime. involved me and my mother back in the day. There's also a missing girl, or a girl who was murdered up there, that was also found in Calumet River from Hammond too, that I'm going to cover her case as well. And we have a lot of cold cases, of some children's cold cases, that I want to cover and also spread the word about. So
Jamie says it's an older case.
oh, it's an older case, Jamie. Okay, I'll take a look at that, Jamie.
Yeah, definitely.
But we do appreciate you guys very, very much.
Absolutely.
Please make sure you
Thank you all.
subscribe. Hit that like button. If you think of anything, please, comments also for the show help. Please, please always check the community posts. You'll find updates, documents, other cases. I just updated about a case of a girl missing, 14-year-old out of Washington, was just found in Michigan.
Thank the Lord,
From
she
a
was
sex
found
offender. He had
alive.
her. He found her. They found her, that he had her transported to Michigan.
Yeah.
When they searched the house, I put that in there. There were other family members who knew she'd been there for 3 weeks, and nobody said crap.
That lived on the property. I mean,
yeah. So I just don't get it. But
oh my God, I just can't.
yeah. But I do want to thank Mama Bear and Paige for coming up and doing the show. I know we had some scheduling stuff the last couple of days. I'm glad we got it out today, and we're able to cover that with everybody. So
thanks for having us up, as always.
Thank you for reading, Miss Paige. I love your accent, so it's awesome to have you read.
And staying up until, what time is it for you now, Paige?
1 in the morning.
1 in the morning.
It is 1 a.m. So we'll let Paige go night first. Thank you, Miss Paige.
Thanks, Justy. And thank you, everybody in
night,
chat.
Miss Paige.
We appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mama Bear. Thank you guys very much. Again, keep an eye out. We'll have more shows and stuff coming up, more things coming as soon as we can. And thank you for always making sure that justice is served daily. Goodbye, everybody.